Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Speaker Spotlight. My name is Dave Murray. I'm the senior consultant for the DiJulius Group, and this is the program where we get to spend some time with the great speakers that will be coming to the Customer Service Revolution Conference, formerly known as the Secret Service Summit, and that will be held in Cleveland, Ohio, this coming October 24th and 25th. That's 2018. We can't wait. And joining me today, I'm really excited to welcome back Adam to the Customer Service Revolution because he's been to the Secret Service Summit in the past. Adam Toporek. Welcome, Adam.
So great to be back and excited to be speaking this year and excited to go from Summit to Revolution. This is exciting.
It is. It's exciting for us as well. We can't wait. We're thrilled. So let me share with our audience a little bit about your background because it's pretty interesting. So first of all, you are an internationally known customer service expert. You are a sought-after keynote speaker. But to me, what's the coolest on your resume is that you're also a frontline trainer. So you're out there practicing what you preach on a regular basis. And before I get to my first question for you, Adam, there's a couple other things on your resume that I want to share. You are the author of Be Your Customer's Hero, which is a book you wrote that we're going to talk about in just a minute. And yes, it's right behind you there. And I just want to make sure that our viewers know you can also catch Adam at the Customers That Stick blog that you author. And then you're also co-host of the Crack the Customer Code podcast. So a couple of places you could catch Adam. So again, Adam, thank you for joining us today. And we're thrilled to have you back at the Customer Service Revolution.
So glad to be here. It is exciting. This is a heck of a lineup this year. So I'm really excited to be a part of it.
You know, I've shared this before, but we joke at the office every year. John comes in and says, this is going to be the best year ever. I'm like, how can that be? But he's always right.
He does it every year. It's amazing.
Yes, he does. So I wanted to touch on the book just briefly as part of my first question, because your book is centered on be your customer's hero. And that's a little different from what we're going to be talking about later in our interview, because your keynote's really focused on what you call be your team's hero, which I'm really intrigued to hear more about. But I did want to start with be your customer's hero, because you talk a lot about in the book some tools, some things that you can do to train frontline service. Any tricks that come to mind? Any things that you've seen over your frontline train years that really stick and really work well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give a little bit of backstory from my part of the bio that wasn't included, which is I'm actually a third generation entrepreneur and have a background in retail and franchising. So the book came out of my frustration of seeing frontline employees. And I know John talks about this too, not really knowing the fundamentals, just not, it's not natural. We're not born to do customer service. It's a skill that you have to learn. So the book is really centered around that. And we have some really neat techniques. And the idea of transferring this to be your team's hero is about the leadership piece, right? How do you lead the people that you're giving Be Your Customer's Hero to, that are using that book on the front lines? But I will give you one because it is a great tip that works for leadership and works for frontline teams. And that is let customers punch themselves out. And I use this technique. I love it. So it comes from boxing, MMA, whatever. It talks about when you let the fighter punch themselves out until they have nothing left, and then you can respond. Now, obviously, we're not punching our customers back, but it's that idea. Our tendency is to jump in. Our tendency is to try to answer the question, to avoid all that energy coming at us. And what I found, this is one of the most magical techniques that I've basically gotten feedback on from the book, which is just let them go. Let the customer have their say. Then when you think they're done, ask them another question because they're not really done. Then on the second time, a lot of times they'll be done. And then you have the opportunity. They feel like they've emotionally vented. We're always working with the emotional customer, right? The psychological customer. And then you can go in and start to address the issues, start to, as we call it, soothe the psyche.
Great tip. I love that. That's something that people can really focus on starting today. If they oversee a team that has some frontline employees that are dealing with some agitated customers from time to time. I like that very much.
All right. Well, yep. And then, the speech will be about leadership. So the speech is going to be about how do we support the people that are using Be Your Customer's Hero. So
let's segue to that. That's my next question. So it seems to me that so many organizations out there really focus on the front line, their frontline employees, and rightfully so, that they need to deliver this service. But it seems like the disconnect that I see very often is leaders don't understand the importance that they play in that process and what they need to do. And I know that's something that you talk about and Be Your Team's Hero. Can you share some of those things that leaders need to be mindful of when they're overseeing a service team?
Oh, absolutely. And part of it is, consistency, alignment, if you want to use the buzzword of the day, right? But it's making sure that we're not just saying take care of customers, that we're creating a culture and an environment where frontline teams are empowered and trained to do so, to actually take care of the customers. Because all too often, unfortunately, leaders don't walk the talk. And they don't necessarily do this out of some sort of nefarious desire to say one thing and do another. It's we don't realize we're doing it. We don't realize we've set up incentives that actually don't support a customer-centric journey all the way through. Perhaps we've incentivized our sales team to really be aggressive, but they're making promises that customer service has to deal with down the road. They're not things we can deliver. And this is a matter of alignment, incentives, sort of violating the ethic of customer centricity, what we're trying to go for, what we're saying, what we're putting on the posters on the walls. So one of the things, the first step is really called embody. And a lot of people use the word alignment, but I like embody, which is walk the talk. And that means not just mean it, but it also means supporting the organization, making sure that you're not sending mixed messages, that you're not sending incentives, giving incentives, right? Or mandating behaviors or policies or procedures that contradict delivering that great experience, that hamstring your frontline reps from delivering that experience.
Yeah, great point. It's so important, the leadership, the role that leadership plays in this. And it just seems to me like all too often it's just forgotten. And you're right, it's because they're incentivized to be doing other things. And so they're not keeping their eye on that particular ball. So that's a great point. Now, I have to think, in my mind, I'm thinking kind of singularly about a customer service director or a customer service manager leading a team that oversees customer service. But I have to imagine the leadership tools that you talk about could have a great impact on any leader anywhere within an organization.
Well, 100%. It really, if you're managing a team of any type that's customer facing, these principles will work for you. The key is, it's not whether you have customer in your title, it's whether you have customer in your focus, right? So if whatever you're doing is customer focused, the principles we're going to talk about, the strategies we're going to talk about will apply. And really the differentiator in Be Your Team's Hero, and my premise, is that customer experience leadership is not the same as general leadership. And I think there's a tendency to think of leadership as one skill set, but it takes a different set of skills to lead a political organization versus a military force, right? A Fortune 500 company versus a small business, and a sales-focused organization versus an experience-focused organization. So if we're customer-centric, if we're experience-focused, and if you are attending the Customer Service Revolution in Cleveland in October, you are most likely customer-centric and customer-focused. This will show you the tools specifically designed around creating a customer-centric team, around creating great customer experiences and supporting the people that we want to deliver those experiences to our customers.
That's excellent. And I love what you said. It doesn't matter if you have customer in your title, if customer is in your focus. That's a phrase that I see being tweeted out quite a bit on October 24th and 25th during the Customer Service Revolution. I love that, and I'm sure others will as well.
Tweet away.
So the next question that I have about your keynote, when you're talking about the topic of being your team's hero, you touch on three really important things. Whether you're rolling out a new initiative, whether you're overseeing a service team, whether it's a new strategy, whatever it is, three things that so many organizations have issues with. And that would be getting and maintaining buy-in. I think that it's also very often lost training, right? So the frontline training, that's lacking. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I think is really important is empowerment, which you talked about already. And I think that's become a little bit of a buzzword. We have to empower our people. But I don't feel like as many organizations really know how to do that. And so let's start with that one if we can, because empowerment, you hear it all the time. We're even asking employees, do you feel empowered? Yes or no? But do organizations really have a handle on how to go about doing that?
Some do, but most organizations struggle with it. And I will say this, I could do the entire speech just on empowerment because I really believe strongly in it. And I also believe strongly that to your point, there is a lot of buzz around it and a lot of sort of fluff. And we didn't get to the subtitle of Be Your Customer's Hero. The subtitle is Real World Tips and Techniques for the Service Front Lines. And my entire lens, coming from small business, coming from a place of not having enough resources ever to deliver customer experience, is what will work in the real world, what is actionable, what's scalable, and just sort of saying, oh, well, Zappos empowers their employees, you should too. That's not useful, right? So, and I'll give you an example. This was a distinction we'll talk about in the speech. When you go to empower employees, one of the things academics separate empowerment into is actual empowerment and psychological empowerment. And I tell a story about how I actually empowered my employees in my retail business. I gave them actual empowerment. I gave them the ability to expand their job roles and to take care of customers. The problem was they didn't have it before and they weren't psychologically empowered, right? So we say, oh, we write a little check mark. Okay, you know what? We're going to let you process refunds up to $100. Let's just, for whatever business model it is, right? Okay, well, we've been on them for every penny for the last decade. Okay, you don't just flip that switch. So there's a process to empowerment. It's not that easy. I actually talk about a concept called smart empowerment, because to me, empowerment is literally a risk-reward decision. In the end, that's what it comes down. It is a risk-reward decision. An example, let's say you own, a mass merchandiser. You own Target or Walmart, right? You're the shareholders. You're the president. Are you going to give your cashiers the ability to wire transfer out of your cash account? No, right? It's all risk and there's no reward. It doesn't help the customers, and that's an extreme example. But that's the type of lens we're going to talk about with empowerment. Is really, what's the reality of it? What do we do once we get past the stitching on the pillows and the bumper stickers, and how do you empower employees?
That's great. Smart empowerment. I am really looking forward to that. That's going to be a very useful tool for a lot of our attendees, I am sure. Another one that we touched on when I rattled off the three areas where companies usually run into trouble. The first one was buy-in. What sort of, just give us an overview of what sort of strategy or tools and tips that you have to help create buy-in from the start of these projects?
Really with buy-in, we've really touched on it a little bit already with the embodying, right? Getting buy-in to me is stepping back and saying, are we walking the talk? Are we embodying the principles and behaviors that we expect from our team? And then after that, it's giving a reason why. Why is this important? People don't just act because you say, we need to do this. They act because they understand the sense of purpose or mission or vision. And that's the why. Why is it important? Why is it important to be a customer-centric company? Why do we even care? I mean, you and I know, because this is what we do. We love it. We love customers, right? We love customer experience. But somebody may not have that lens. So to me, it's embodying those principles, making sure the incentives are aligned, making sure policies and procedures aren't getting in the way, and giving a why, having a sense of purpose and mission, and making sure that everything you do supports that, right? Too often we have, especially the larger the organization, the harder this is, right? There are external pressures. There's supply chain pressures. There's new venture capital money just came in, and now they want a quarterly return. Well, okay, you want us to be great in 3 months, or do you want us to be great in 3 years? We can't do both, right? What's it going to be? And there's a lot of those dynamics that when you try to apply this in the real world, it's not that easy. It's easy to say, embody it. So really looking at what are the structural things you need to do to make sure you are aligned and you are supporting that message.
Great tips. Now, the last one of the three that we talked about is training. And I think it's interesting because I know that you say that a lot of organizations out there make one common mistake when it comes to getting to the training portion. Can you share or at least tease a little bit of what you're going to talk about on stage on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And training, this is sort of near and dear to my heart. I do training. We offer training, all of that good stuff. I would contend this. Everything we know now about the customer journey and the emotional journey of a customer is that the emotion is key. Okay, whatever the peak emotion is, whatever the dominant emotion is that comes from a customer's experience with your organization is what is going to basically inform their memory of the experience and how they feel about your brand and your organization. And I would contend this, from everything we know about evolutionary biology, neuroscience, that whenever you have a human-to-human interaction in those touch points, those are going to tend to be the most emotionally resonant moments when we interact with another human. I mean, do you get more emotional when you talk to somebody or when you text somebody? It's just, when you're looking through your shopping cart on Amazon, there's not a lot of emotional engagement. It's an important touch point, don't get me wrong. But when you call the customer service line because you had a problem and you actually speak to a human, there's going to be a lot more emotional engagement. And here's the thing. We're so digitally focused now. We're so focused on the software and the systems, and all that is important, that we forget that the make or break touch points are so often human. And we forget about training, because training is so easy to not prioritize. It's not immediate. It's not urgent. It takes a long time. It takes time to train somebody. It takes time to onboard somebody. John's got spas. I come from a retail spa background as well. We know what it's like to need somebody on the desk an hour after you hire them. Right? Right. I mean, that happens. It just, all of a sudden you walk in and, two people got new jobs. One person got hit by a car and then boom, right? It's like a whole new thing. Your whole life has changed in a day, and that happens in every business. So training is so often overlooked. So we'll talk a lot about how important training is, why it should be prioritized, and how to approach that.
That's great. And, in our consulting practice at the DiJulius Group, I work a lot with call centers. And you're so right, Adam, when you talk about our digital focus. Even in call centers now, they're so focused on the new tools, AI and chat and all these things, chat bots, all these things that are happening. And I feel like part of my job is to pull them back and say, hey, but remember, still most of our touch points are voice to voice when we have them live on the phone, and we have to be brilliant at the basics. You can't forgo the important interactions for all these new things. Yes, they can supplement what you're doing, but you can't move away completely.
100%. Yeah. And it's so key, because those will be the more emotionally resonant experiences as a rule.
Absolutely. So Adam, here's my last question for you. So this will be your 4th Customer Service Revolution Conference.
Yep.
So our audience. You know that our audience is made up of business leaders, business owners, directors of organizations, people that understand that the customer experience they are delivering is really what sets them apart from their competitors. So that being said, what are you most excited about from all the messages that you give, all the great content that you have? What are you most excited about delivering to that particular audience?
It comes from the real world lens, and it's very simple. Actionable ideas to take away from all the 3 things we talked about. Right? It's basically a 3E leadership framework: embody, educate, empower. But it's more than just understanding it. It's actually a strategy for how to approach it when they leave, so that they can take it home, so they can actually make differences in their organizations, in their teams, in their business immediately. And I don't mean a year from now. I mean a day after, a week after, a month after. So to me, it's all about what can you use? What can I share that's going to flick a light bulb for you? And you're going to say, that's the thing. You know what? Empowerment's what we need to work on. We need to go home, take this toolkit, and apply it. And so if I can do that, that's always my goal, and I'm excited to try and do it, and to do it at the Customer Service Revolution.
That's great. Embody, educate, empower. I love it. And the other thing that I love about your content is you're talking about things that, like you just said, people can take back, and if they're at the conference on a Wednesday, Thursday, they can implement on a Friday, or when they're back in the office on Monday. It's not too big picture where they have to give it some thought and plan for it. It's some real world application. I love it.
Absolutely. There's big stuff with all 3 of those, and there's immediate wins that you can pretty much nail right away. And I think that's the great part, is getting those little bite-sized wins right under your belt quickly.
Well, that's great. Adam, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know our audience will enjoy hearing this program and also seeing you at the Customer Service Revolution stage. Again, the Customer Service Revolution is October 24th and October 25th, 2018 in Cleveland. If you have not booked your tickets yet, there's the website, customerservicerevolution.com. Adam Toporek, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to see you in Cleveland in October.
Super excited, Dave. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait for Cleveland, because it rocks.
It sure does. We will see you then. Everybody, thank you for joining us for this episode of Speaker Spotlight, and we'll see you next time.